Life after Rome. New DNA evidence reveals shifting social norms and longevity on the Frontier A groundbreaking DNA analysis of over 200 skeletons has provided a rare, intimate look at life on the Roman frontier during a period of massive geopolitical upheaval, spanning the years 400 to 700 AD. The study examines how populations in what is now southern Germany transitioned from the Roman imperial era into the early Middle Ages. The findings, published in the journal Nature, suggest that the collapse of Roman state structures may have inadvertently led to a more stable, albeit different, way of life for those living on the periphery of the empire. A changing demographic landscape, the research reveals a significant demographic shift occurring around the late 5th century. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled, the genetic makeup of southern Germany began to transform. Migration and mixing. Populations of Northern European ancestry migrated into the region, intermarrying with the existing, genetically diverse Roman provincial groups. Genetic stabilization. By the 7th century, the population had become genetically similar to the modern inhabitants of Central Europe. Social norms. Monogamy and the half-orphan reality. One of the most striking aspects of the study is what it reveals about the social and familial fabric of the time. The data suggests a society governed by strict, perhaps religiously influenced, social codes. The rise of lifelong monogamy contrary to many historical assumptions about barbarian or post-imperial chaos. The researchers found no evidence of polygamy, incest, or close-kin marriages. Instead, the data points toward a norm of lifelong monogamy. While there was very little evidence of remarriage for widows, this trend aligns with the rise of Christianity in the region, as church doctrines increasingly discourage divorce and remarriage. Interestingly, these social practices seem to be a formalization of Roman legal codes that were previously difficult to enforce, but became deeply embedded in early medieval society. Family fragility, while social structures were stable, biological life was often precarious. The study highlights a high rate of childhood loss. Half-orphans, nearly 1/4 of children lost at least one parent before the age of 10. Grandparental support. Despite the high rate of parental loss, the social safety net remained intact. Approximately 82% of children were born into families where at least one grandparent was still living. The longevity paradox. Did life get better after Rome fell? Perhaps the most controversial finding is the potential increase in life expectancy. The study suggests that after the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD, life expectancy may have risen to 43.3 years for men and 39.8 years for women. This is a significant jump from previous estimates of the Roman era, which often placed average life expectancy between 20 and 25 years. Why might people have lived longer? Historians and scientists suggest several reasons why the collapse might have actually benefited individual longevity. Reduced large-scale warfare. During the Roman era, massive, state-organized military campaigns and civil wars caused immense casualties. In the early Middle Ages, violence became more decentralized and localized, potentially reducing the frequency of mass casualty conflicts. Escape from crowd diseases. The Roman Empire was defined by massive urban centers. While impressive, these cities lacked modern sanitation, like chlorine, and acted as breeding grounds for infectious diseases. The smaller, more rural, and less dense communities of the early Middle Ages may have been less susceptible to these crowd diseases. Economic stability. Smaller-scale rural societies may have faced less extreme food insecurity than the urban poor living in the late Roman Empire. The societies being studied here were much smaller scale, so they may have escaped from the crowd diseases that afflicted Romans, notes historian Shane Bobricky. The biological cost for women despite the overall rise in longevity. The data shows a persistent gap between genders. Women faced higher mortality rates after age 10, a trend researchers attribute to the extreme risks associated with childbirth. This suggests that while the era may have been safer from war and plague, the biological realities of reproduction remained a primary driver of female mortality. Conclusion: the transition from Roman rule to the early Middle Ages was not merely a political collapse. but a profound social reorganization. The data suggests that as the empire faded, smaller, more rural, and more monogamous societies emerged, potentially trading the complex, disease-prone urban life of Rome for a more stable, albeit localized, existence.